Right now it's 6, more wind and rain moving in as we head toward that Halloween weekend.
Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry joining us now with a closer look at those impacts and weather alerts that are already in effect. Melissa.
Yeah, it feels like deja vu, John and Augusta. Another round of wind, rain, and snow pushing in. This time it is more of southeast that will see these impacts. That is where we have high wind warnings also in effect for the Bering Strait coast all the way up into Point Lay. But first, it's tonight, already in effect from Yakutat into Sitka, continuing overnight with those winds out of the east gusting as high as 65 miles per hour. And further south near Ketchikan, those winds will increase around 10 o'clock tonight, continuing through early tomorrow. Also seeing wind gusts up near 60 miles per hour. So this is mostly an overnight event with just breezy conditions as we head through the day on Friday. Already seeing those winds up to 51 miles per hour in Juneau, 52 in Sitka, and strong winds down the west coast. Nome at 41 miles per hour. And again, we will see higher winds there as we move into the second half of the day tomorrow. In addition to the wind, this storm is bringing a lot of moisture with it. Heavy rain for the coastal areas of south central and for southeast overnight tonight into tomorrow. Further north, Anchorage and the valley seeing a quick shot of rain and snow in the higher elevations overnight tonight. But then we transition to scattered showers, which will be pretty isolated once we get into Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday. But you can see that storm just kind of lingers and spins out there in the northern Pacific. We will see temperatures getting a little cooler tonight, but still above freezing for Anchorage. High temperatures tomorrow, still on the warm side, still back into the 40s for another day. So if you are planning those costumes, planning to head out and do some trick-or-treating, one of the warmest Halloweens we've seen in a while, just be prepared for a few spotty showers in Anchorage. A few snowflakes are possible in the interior Fairbanks, warm at 36, windy and wet in Juneau, and we will likely see blowing snow with strong winds in Bethel. Now a closer look at your extended forecast next.
All right, Melissa, thanks so much for tracking all those details. And tonight, our investigative team is working to answer some remaining Halong relocation questions. Nearly 3 weeks after the former Typhoon Halong impacted 52 West Coast communities, devastating many villages like Kipnuk and Kwigillingok, we're asking how evacuees who want to be able to start returning home by the state's November 10th timeframe are going to be able to do so.
Our investigative team's Johnson Kuhn joins us in studio with an update as to what you've learned, Johnson, about state resources.
That's right, John. From talking to emergency management and Red Cross spokespeople, here's where things stand currently. By tomorrow, the goal is to have all evacuees out of the shelters. Now, that number today was 98 people. The goal to move everyone to a hotel room is still in the process, and some evacuees are already there. And they'll spend the next 10 days planning to get them onto planes after that.
And that 10-day time frame puts us at around November 10th. So what do we know about evacuees actually getting back to those villages?
Yeah, guys, so we asked the state emergency management about that, and right now the answer is a mixture of transportation. They say primarily that will consist of commercial flights, but they're still working on the details, including how those flights will be purchased.
All right, that's Johnson Kuhn. Thank you, Johnson, reporting. And you can see Johnson's full story right now live on our website, also our mobile app. And check us out tonight on the Late Edition. And if you have a tip for our I-team, you can email us at 2investigates@ktuu.com.
And more than 66,000 Alaskans are set to lose their SNAP food assistance benefits on Saturday, along with the continued government shutdown. The governor's office tells Alaska's news source the state still has not found emergency funding for SNAP.
And that comes as state lawmakers held a SNAP hearing this week. Anchorage Democratic Representative Andrew Gray calls this an emergency, says a special legislative session may be needed for the SNAP lapse. But that would take 30 days to convene, well past the November 1st deadline. The crisis comes as lawmakers heard how the big, beautiful bill will shift SNAP costs to Alaska. Starting in 2027, Alaska will pay 75% of the current 50-50 split, plus financial penalties will be incurred for high error rates. UDSA data shows that Alaska has the highest SNAP error rates in the nation.
There's no way we can afford that. We are in desperate times here in Alaska where low oil prices are going to force us to make some very difficult decisions. And the last thing we can do is afford a higher administrative burden to administer SNAP. So that's a real problem.
Alaska's news source reached out to multiple Republican minority members. None have returned comment. We've got full coverage up on our website and mobile app.
And with SNAP benefits ending on November 1st due to the shutdown, the need for food here in Alaska is expected to surge.
Organizations like the Food Bank of Alaska are working hard to keep up with those needs. So joining us now is the Food Bank's Chief Executive Officer, Kara Durr.
Kara, thank you for joining us tonight. November 1st, coming up very quick. What are you expecting to see, and how is the organization, the Food Bank, preparing, maybe adjusting?
Yeah, we are anticipating a really challenging time in our state. It'll be challenging for us at the Food Bank and among our partners, but more importantly, challenging for the many Alaskans, 66,000, that depend on SNAP to put food on the table. Alaska works to source and distribute food to those in need through a network of partners, and we are doing this every day, all year round. So we're going to continue doing that, but we also know that the need is just going to increase dramatically, and I think there's a lot of concern that we're not going to be able to fill that gap.
Yeah.
And Kara, with so many people losing their SNAP benefits, are you putting in any efforts to boost fundraising to help lighten the load?
Yeah, we are, and we've been really overwhelmed by the generosity of the community. But as you know, we are dealing with the after effects of Typhoon Halong. We're very active in that disaster response and have been raising money to respond to the needs of the people in those communities. So now we have another crisis on top of an existing crisis. So again, community has been really generous, and we appreciate it. But for every meal that the Food Bank network through Feeding America provides, SNAP is providing 9. So this is a really, really big gap to fill.
I guess, are you recruiting volunteers? How can people get involved to help? I know a lot of people would like to, especially, like you said, coming out of former Typhoon Halong, also with government shutdown.
Yeah, volunteers are critical to our operation, and we do have opportunities online. If you go to our website, foodbankofalaska.org, we have a whole page dedicated to the government shutdown. So there's resources there if you need help for your family, but there's also resources there of how to give help.
All right, Kara, thank you so much. Again, Kara Durr with Food Bank of Alaska. Thanks again for coming in. A man who pleaded guilty to charges related to stalking members of the Palin family has been sentenced to 4 years in prison. 36-year-old Peter Paul Ferrero pleaded guilty to a consolidated count of first-degree stalking.
A complaint states that Ferrero has a history of primarily using Instagram accounts to post messages to former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, her daughter Piper. The complaint also lists a history of Ferrero's stalking behavior over a 12-year period, including breaking into the Palin family homes, which he served jail time for in 2019.
And the Senate has passed a joint resolution to overturn a rule that restricted oil and gas drilling in the National Petroleum Reserve, Alaska. The resolution was sponsored by Senators Dan Sullivan and Lisa Murkowski. Opponents to the Biden-era rule say it unfairly targeted Alaska. Some who supported the restrictions say they're good for conservation, and the restrictions could prevent things like climate change.
All right, so you may have felt it this morning. It was a 5.4 magnitude earthquake, hit about 43 miles southwest of Seward.
The University of Alaska Fairbanks Earthquake Center confirmed it happens about 9:33 this morning. They say it was the largest earthquake in South Central since March of 2023. No damage or injuries have been announced, but people reported buildings and things like chairs inside shaking. We talked to a seismic data manager with the Earthquake Center at UAF about today's quake.
This one was a magnitude 5.4. It's not huge, but it was felt pretty widely throughout Kenai Peninsula, Anchorage, Matsu.
Now, we're told nothing serious happened, but people are urged to take any warning seriously, especially in community warning zones. You may remember back on July 16th, a 7.3 magnitude earthquake near Sand Point.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.